Hello and welcome to the Game Dev London podcast. My name is Adam, and with me this week is my co-host
Ahmed.
Ahmed. Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be chatting specifically about pre-production. We're going to be talking about the value of pre-production, what happens when you don't do it, what happens when you do it, why it's important. We're going to talk about scoping out work, specifically looking at different lengths of time: 24 hours, 48 hours, a week, a month, a year. 4 years if you are either a AAA or a solo indie. That seems to be how that goes down. And MVPs, what that means, what it means to individual developers, and how it's going to help you sort of stay on track and avoid So let's it's gonna be good. Let's start with the value of pre-production. For those who aren't aware, pre-production is basically before jumping headfirst into a project. It's taking some time to sort of design out how you're going to make that project. Basically, building the framework around which you're going to build whatever game or otherwise you are building. So most places don't do pre-production, especially because they just don't see the value of it or don't see the time. So let's start with chatting about what do you think not doing pre-production. What's the dangers of not doing pre-production on a project?
So pre-production in of itself, it's there to kind of lay down the plan for when your game goes into production. And by that, basically outlining what you want to do, what the features are, how, the general gist of how you want the game to be, and like a place to start off, more importantly, but also something to kind of outline the roadmap of how you if you need more people, if you might need more people on the project, how long you think it's going to take, how long you think it's going to cost. And those are, those are big end all be all sort of like parts of a project. Like if you don't have money, like that kills most projects. That turns it from something that you can survive on to something that's a hobby in your free time. But even ironically, even as a hobby, I think it's valuable to do pre-production, so you know where how you're gonna have to plan it, how much time you're gonna take, how many months, weeks, years it'll take. And how much of your free time is it going to take? Are you going to devote everything outside of your job to do it? Or is it going to be something that you take 2 hours to do, so it's more manageable in the long term and you don't get burnout? So, and not having pre-production tends to lead to scenarios where you've just kind of, you back yourself into a corner where either you've made a commitment to someone, to a publisher, to the public, to the client, essentially, and you've just not really, you end up basically just being unable to maintain it without having to crunch or just put in obscene amount of hours. And so doing that pre-production gives you a good general gist of it, of the charting your course of where you want to go with things.
The way I see
super important.
The way I see it, it's almost like if a project is building, I'm going to go with house because it's the standard. If a project building a house, this is building the scaffolding. Technically speaking, you can build a house without scaffolding, but if you fall off, it's going to hurt a lot more. And that's just, it's about sort of scoping out the framework within which you're trying to build the thing that you're building. And particularly because it's not necessarily about the start, because obviously, take the house analogy, for example. Laying a bunch of bricks on the ground to frame out this is where the rooms are going to be is it doesn't feel like you need a lot of pre-production on that, but 6 months down the line when you're trying to build a roof on top of a foundation that you've kind of thrown together and nothing sits in place and you're like, why isn't this working? If only you'd thought of pre-production. And it's that figuring out. And I think one of the things you allude to there is figuring out. It helps you start to build, and this is the thing that I've been big on recently. Projects tend to have a mental net, for want of a better word, where you basically start to build a web of the things that all connect up. So in programming, it's like this mechanic builds to this mechanic, which builds to this manager, which connects to this. Actually, your project works like that because art connects to programming connects to production, connects to marketing, connects to everything, and you can start to foresee the issues that are going to happen months down the line if you do some pre-production and you go, oh, hang on a minute, I've just planned in the fact that we need a 2D artist. Do we have a 2D artist in our team? No. Should probably get that sorted sooner rather than later.
Exactly. Yeah. And like identifying the dependencies in your project ahead of time is probably one of the most valuable things you can do to kind of prevent your project losing momentum. Because like keeping that momentum means that you can, I mean, like with anything, like you can get to like A to B, B being like you release the game to the market, and you like or it could also be like the minimal viable product MVP, and so having that understanding is invaluable.
I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting as well when you start to look at the difference between, because this is the other side of that coin in terms of pre-production, that smaller companies or indies or one-person studios and stuff like that tend to lean towards it pre-production teaming like a big studio thing. Like, oh, why would we need to do that? There's only one of us or two of us and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And while I think it's probably more important that a big studio does it, because obviously you're trying to handle 250 people on a project, not having any kind of framework which to organize people is just unbelievably dangerous. Like you know, there's a reason that these AAAs and stuff take 3, 4, 5, 6 years in the making. And most of that is just organization and trying to get everybody working on the same thing. But if you look at the indies that didn't, look at indie studios and the games they built and that kind of thing, pre-production could just be called planning, right? It's just having the plan. I totally didn't Google this beforehand because I remembered it and I couldn't remember the exact wordings. Benjamin Franklin quote, here we go. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. And that's exactly it, right? If you're not coming into it going, I've got an idea of what I'm going to do. One of the big ones actually, and this is me personally, if I just come up with ideas for games that I want to make, little bits and pieces, if I just go dive straight in, even the ones where I have the clearest idea of what that game is going to look like, I normally burn out of creative thinking. I will hit a point where I'm like, I've got a lot of the stuff I want in. I could kind of go anywhere with this now. I'm not really sure which way I want to go, and that process of just trying to think of it is tiring in and of itself. And what normally happens is I get distracted by a new idea. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's quite a lot of the looking ahead meme of the programmer looking at old project and be distracted by new project. That's definitely out there. And that's a problem, and that's especially for small studios, if you are constantly being distracted by the new project and you never actually finish the old project, and that's dangerous.
No, absolutely. And like one thing it does give is a sense of accountability to yourself. If you have outlined this project, then you know what it is you need to do. So if you start getting distracted, and start adding bits and stuff, you'll see that kind of goes outside the scope you intended. And so you realize if you're going to make changes to the project, it's going to mean it's going to take more time. And what you were saying earlier, like with regards to like it being more important in bigger studio, I don't disagree, but I feel like it's as valuable for indie or solo devs. It's just the risks, like the stakes are higher in regards to like in AAA. You have a lot of publisher and stakeholder management, like people who are funding your game and paying your salaries. They have expectations that you have to agree to and outline beforehand. Whereas with indie, even though you may not have a big publisher or a big fund, like someone funding like your game, with the expectation of you having to deliver, you still are spending your own time and your own money in the game, and you can't, I feel it's dangerous for an indies to start to undervalue their time and money.
Oh, massively.
Hi guys, Stuart DeVille here from GameDev London. Thanks for watching that clip of the GameDev London podcast. If you visit our website, gamedev.london, you will find links to all of the places you can listen to the full version of that episode. You can also find information about our live events, our Twitch streams, our game jams, our competitions, and more. And why not come and join us in our Discord. Hit subscribe and follow us for more clips like this. All links will be in the description below. Thanks again, and see you soon.